Welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to talk about the Nobel Prize for Literature winners I've read, realizing after Jon Fosse won this award last year that there are quite a few of these authors that I've actually read now, which is kind of fun. Also, I was surprised of how many of them I didn't realize had won this award. I'd read the books, but I didn't know they were Nobel Prize famous. So this video is just me talking quickly about the books I've read, and I'll do it in chronological order, starting with the oldest one, I guess. The first award was given out in 1901, and in 1903 Bjørnstjerne Bjørnson, a famous Norwegian author, won this award. I haven't read anything by him since I was in school, so he doesn't really count. But in 1907 Rudyard Kipling won with The Jungle Book, or he won the award, and The Jungle Book is one of his books that I've read. I have also read some of his poems, but poems aren't really my thing. So The Jungle Book I liked, but I thought it was only going to be the Disney story and not the rest of them. So I think it's 5 stories in total, where I liked the first one and the rest was just okay. Then it's 1928 and Sigrid Undset's time. So this is Christin Lover's daughter, one of the first books I bought for this channel. It's one of the Norwegian masterpieces, and it's an epic one. This is a book I've thought about constantly after I read it. Maybe one of those books that have occupied the most space inside my head, which I do like that feeling. It was kind of uneven, so the book number 1 is by far my favorite, and book number 2 is kind of a drag, and the third one is a good book as well. It's set in Norway during the Middle Ages, and I guess that's one big reason why it's famous, because Undset did a lot of research. Besides this, it's about Christin. She does a lot of stupid things, and she's a woman, so a lot of stupid things are done towards her. Then we're only jumping 1 year until 1929, and this is Thomas Mann Buddenbrooks. I guess Buddenbrooks is the main reason why Thomas Mann won this award. He has also written The Magic Mountain, which I haven't read, but that seems like a novel I could enjoy. I read this because there were many of you in the comment section that said that I should read this book. And this is also still one of those books that haunt me, I guess. It's quite a lot bigger than it seems. It has a really small font size. It's about this German family and how this family is torn to pieces, which is always kind of fun. Sometimes I have a hard time defining if I really like the book or not, but after reading Buddenbrooks, I will read The Magic Mountain at some point, so that says kinda a lot. Then it's my most beaten up copy of a book ever. It's The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. He won this award in 1949, and I just loved this cover, and I loved the title of this book. Other than that, I have no idea what this book is about. I read it about 15 years ago because of the cover and the title. Also, William Faulkner is a name I like. Sometimes it doesn't take a lot for me to choose a book. But I'm still holding on to this in my shelf. Will probably buy this exact copy if I find it in better condition without, the tape and all that. So I have no clue, but I've read it. Does it count if I can't remember anything? I don't know. At least I've spent time with it. That must count for something. Then it's 1954 and it's Hemingway's time. So this is Farewell to Arms, and this is The Old Man and the Sea. Did enjoy Farewell to Arms, felt like that had more of a story. The Old Man and the Sea, not so much. Will I still read For Whom the Bell Tolls? Probably, because that's also a really cool title. Hemingway surprised me a bit because the language isn't all that complex. There is something about thinking about Hemingway that made me go in my brain that has to be complicated. But it isn't. But it can still be boring if it's not complicated. Then over to Iceland and an author I didn't realize existed before I started this channel. It's Halldór Laxness, and this is Independent People. After reading Sigrid Undset, this has to be the book that has it has made some images in my head that I can't really shake. They're there constantly, and it's just really, really good. I think I ended up giving this 3 out of 5, and to me it was kind of uneven, but at times was really, really powerful. It's about this stubborn man on Iceland that refuses to budge for anything or anyone, and I do recommend it for everyone. Then it's 1957, and a book I don't recommend to anyone, and it's Albert Camus with The Plague, which I absolutely despised. I hated it, so won't be talking much about it, I guess. There's no point. Then it's 1962, and John Steinbeck won this award. So this is Of Mice and Men, and I've also read The Grapes of Wrath, and I started reading East of Eden. I was really on a Steinbeck roll, I should say. Started out with Grapes of Wrath, which I absolutely loved. It's set during the Great Depression, and it made some mental images for me that just have stayed for a while. I was really gripped by the story and really into it. Then I went over to reading Of Mice and Men, which is a short but effective story, and I guess many of you have read. Started out reading East of Eden, but didn't really get into it. I exaggerated my Steinbeck experience, I guess, so that one I will continue reading someday. Then we're jumping to 1970, and it's Alexander Solzhenitsyn, A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. So this is about a man in Gulag, and of course this is a highly controversial novel, which I think it's the first time someone has spoken openly about this in a book or in writings in a newspaper. So an important novel, but it didn't quite catch me. I thought it would be more nitty-gritty, more like directly painful to read, but it's more idea-based than I thought it would be, and thus I was disappointed. Then we're going to fast forward into 2015, and that means that there are 45 years of winners I haven't read. So if you have suggestions for which authors I should read next, please comment this below, because now there's a void inside me, or at least there is a space that I have to fill. When I think about it, I should probably read one of the winners around 1990, so there's an even gap on both sides. But we'll see. Anyway, in 2015, Svetlana Alexovich won this award, and this is War's Unwomanly Face. It's stories from women that survived the Second World War and did not survive the Second World War from Eastern Europe. A lot of these stories were set in Ukraine, and that made it just more painful to read about. But in general, these are at times very graphic, or I felt like they were. I know people that have read this book that didn't feel the same way, but some of these images described in this book are just disturbing and painful. This just made it stick, and I guess painful images tend to stay a lot longer than happy ones, I guess, or is that just me? But I do recommend this book. I will probably read more from Alexovich in a while. I just have to get these images on some distance before I do that. The year after Alexovich won, it was time for Bob Dylan. I guess he had a lot of people rooting for him, and some people that thought this was nonsense, but I've listened to most of his albums, so maybe that counts. I think we'll jump to the year afterwards, 2017, when Kazuo Ishiguro won. This is Remains of the Day, and this is Never Let Me Go, as it says on the cover. I feel like these are books that I could have enjoyed more, but I was not in the right mood. Both of these have qualities that maybe while I read them, I thought, why am I not enjoying this more? I don't think I had a lot of expectations for them either. I just thought they would be better for me. So maybe I'll read one of these again. I think that will be Never Let Me Go. That was closer to what I would have liked to read, so we'll see. Then it's 2018 and time for Olga Tkachuk, and this is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. I really enjoyed this novel. It was kind of different. It's mystical, it's kind of badass, and I really want to read more of Tkachuk's books, but the book I most want to read from her is the Book of Jacob, and that's just a huge piece of literature. It's a big book, so haven't done so yet, but it will probably happen. Then over to a book I bought because it seemed like this would win the Nobel Prize for Literature sometime, and it did, and then I didn't want to read it. but it's The Years by Annie Arnaud. This is sort of a stream of consciousness thing, and I feel like a book about growing up, growing old, life itself. It has big themes, but it's a bit too stream of consciousness-nessy sometimes. But I did enjoy it. It's very uneven to me. There are moments where I think, well, that's beautiful, and that's life, and that's how it is, but that also makes it kind of meh. I like how I talk about these Nobel Prize for Literature winners with such little dignity. I guess that is how I rolled. But anyway, then we've come to Jon Fosse, and I read the trilogy and the septology. He is not my thing. I think the only thing I'm going to say about Jon Fosse is that it's not hard to read Jon Fosse. You just have to get used to the stream of consciousness and how he repeats stuff all the time, and how he doesn't like to end sentences. As long as you get used to that part, I think it'll do fine, and a lot of people loved these. I didn't realize how much people loved Jon Fosse until I started hanging around on BookTube, and maybe I've just not been fed with the BookTube algorithm that hates Jon Fosse. But if someone knows a channel that despises Jon Fosse, please comment below, because I'm interested to hear what people think of him. I love him as a person. He seems like a fantastic human being. A fantastic, weird human being. And that's also the reason why I love him. So, these were my thoughts of Nobel Prize for Literature winners. So, if you have books you would like to recommend in this segment, please leave them below. Especially shorter novels, because as you might have taken out of this conversation, I do not love them in general, so I might not want to read the bigger books unless I know I like the author. But please do recommend the books. I hope you have a terrific weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!